As caregivers dedicate themselves to the well-being of others, it's vital to remember that their own health and happiness are equally important. Today we have Javicia Colston, a family caregiver and the current chairwoman of the Orange County Commission on Aging Advisory Board, joining us to discuss the significance of self-care for caregivers and how they can prioritize their own needs, which is very important. Javicia, thank you so much for being here. You really have a unique perspective on all of this because it's personal to you.
Oh yes, and thank you so much for having me here. I'm glad for the opportunity to be able to discuss this and share some hopeful tidbits or gems for our community.
I think it is really important because as caregivers, you often will see people forget to take care of themselves.
Yes.
So what are the challenges, particularly for caregivers, when trying to implement that all-important self-care?
Well, you know, the main thing is feeling that guilt to be able to take time for yourself. Sometimes you get so focused on, I have to do this for mom or dad or grandma. And then you forget because you just put yourself on the back burner. And then when you do take the time to just exhale, you feel guilty for doing it. But it's that guilt shouldn't be there, because without taking care of yourself and prioritizing yourself, how can you be the best for grandma or for mom or for dad without prioritizing yourself first?
Yeah, that's so important because the people who need you, they need a lot from you, but that old saying, you can't pour from an empty cup.
Well, yeah.
That is the best case, example right here for caregivers and implementing self-care. And I like how you said, taking that moment to exhale. Sometimes it's just taking a moment to yourself, isn't it? Just to remind yourself, like, I gotta be okay.
Oh yeah, you have to be okay, because when mom is asking for this and that, or God forbid mom had a bad day and she falls, you have to make sure that you're functioning and operating at 100%, because it's so vital for their needs and for their mental well-being that you function at 100% capacity. And so that all starts with prioritizing yourself.
So that we all can agree that self-care is very important for caregivers. When you talked about that guilt that you feel, what are some other barriers that kind of get in the way of a caregiver really implementing a self-care routine?
Right. Well, sometimes for most people, it can be lack of community or lack of resources, because oftentimes when you're dealing with people of different cultural backgrounds, you're taking care of those loved ones at home. And so some people may not have the resources to be able to call someone in to take over for a day or for 2 hours. So it's not only about feeling guilty, it's about I always have to be on, because who else is going to relieve me?
And that's a tough feeling when you feel almost helpless. But there are strategies and there are support systems out there.
Yeah.
So let's talk about some simple strategies. I know anybody can get busy, whether it's a mom, which is another type of caregiver.
Yes.
And as a mother too, you often do everything for your kids and then you realize, I haven't done a thing for myself today. But it could be as simple as just going outside and taking a few deep breaths with a cup of coffee in the morning.
Or sitting in your car for a little bit and having that personal time just to exhale. Or something as simple as opposed to taking a quick 5-minute shower, take that time and actually, romanticize taking the shower. Maybe instead of spending a quick 5 minutes, take 30 minutes, fully engulf yourself, pulling out a different set of pajamas that you normally wear. That way you can feel better about yourself. Simple things. They don't have to be costly or anything like that. Or say, okay, instead of cooking for me and mom today, we'll just order in for you and I, get something different, Just simple things of that nature, something that you don't have to overthink in order to take a little bit of time for yourself.
Isn't that funny? We overthink everything,
Everything.
Including self-care. Because
Yes.
I don't have time or money to book a massage. Well, you could go take a walk around the neighborhood and take in the blizzards and the
Right,
birds
yeah.
and just give yourself a mental break.
For sure. Because a lot of the times it's about the burnout stage, or a burnout aspect is not being able to shut your mind off. And that's truly where the guilt sets in, because you're thinking about the next doctor's appointment. Did I prepare the meals on time? Do I need to prep this? Did I give the meds properly? Did I respond to a text message? You know, just shutting your brain off to recharge. That way, when you do lay down at night, you can get that good amount of rest.
It sounds like you have thought about this a lot, because you do take care
Yeah.
of your grandparents, and that's why, you know, when you and I were speaking beforehand, you are such a light, and I can see why they want you in their life.
Oh, thank you.
But you have to keep that light, you know, that spark going somehow.
Oh, for sure.
So
Yeah.
this must be personal for you in that way.
Yes, for sure it is. It is. And I mean, it is a joy, because I do know that everyone doesn't have the opportunity to get to grow up with their grandparents or watch their parents age. And so I do count it as a blessing. So I find joy, or make it fun, you know, try to make it as fun as possible, as opposed to making it something on the to-do list.
You know, I have fond memories of going over and coloring my grandma's hair. I became the one that would go color her hair while we
Yeah.
watched Price is Right. And I know it may sound silly, but I think other people understand that
Yeah.
when you have some of those personal moments. But to our point, you got to take care of yourself.
Oh,
too.
yes.
So what are some community resources, and how can the community you know, be involved, and how can caregivers get access to that type of resources?
So caregivers should, one, be aware of different resources. Orange County has done a tremendous job of partnering with various leaders and organizations. So we have different examples from ADRC within our community, the Alzheimer's Dementia Resource Center. They're in Winter Park. They provide seminars and resources for caregivers dealing with parents or family members with dementia and Alzheimer's. You have resources like Seniors First. Sometimes they provide meals. You also have so many numerous things. Each segment of the county does offer elderly groups or clubs and organizations.
Oh, nice.
So for example, Pine Hill Seniors is a very active senior group. They even do exercises, they meet. So just learning about your resources and really counting and leaning on Orange County, because Orange County has done a great job as to providing and making sure that Orange County is age friendly for the
Yes.
community. So there are many resources, many people willing to help at every turn of the dime, not just for the elderly, but for caregivers.
Well, that's very important. All that information you just shared is really why we want people to know that caregivers, there is other care available for you to take advantage of. So Javicia Colston, thank you so much for
Well, thank
joining us. You're such a
you.
delight and such good information.
Thank you so much for having me.
Anytime. Well, if you would like to connect with the Orange County Commission on Aging, you can email commissiononaging@ocfl.net.